All right, and we're recording, and I got Mr. Dan. Is it Caycedo?
It's Caycedo, yeah. Pretty close.
Pretty close. All right, I butcher names left and right. I'm
No, that's
sorry.
okay.
I apologize,
The C is
but
like
uh,
a, but you're good.
I've been looking forward to this interview for a long time since I heard about Withered and got to see y'all a few times while y'all was on tour with my buds and Goathwhore.
Nice.
Caught y'all show in Asheville and again in Pensacola,
Oh,
and
wow.
it was awesome. Both, I mean, so intense. I think whoever wrote "Torture, Death, Doom" had it right on your Bandcamp and social media. But I'm glad you're joining me, man, and just want to hear how everything played out to this point. Get your story and tell me where you were born, how you grew up, all that good shit. This hour's yours.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I'm actually a Georgia native, born and raised here in Georgia, but I've been pretty much all over the place, at least half a dozen different continents. And I grew up in Marietta, which is like basically the suburbs north of Atlanta, and not much to do down there or up there, really. It's just like a scene to get in trouble. I got in trouble a lot as a high schooler, but I got into music in high school. It's pretty much when I first started touching the guitar and thinking about music and wanting to be in a band, doing things that were just like not conventional to what my father or mom wanted me to do. They really they wanted me to be a lawyer, and I just I don't think I was really going that path. So, but anyway, I got in trouble a lot. I barely graduated high school, but as soon as I got out of high school, I kind of got myself together and went to community college, kind of trying to get like some kind of associate's degree or whatever. But I didn't really have a career mind in my head. I was just really thinking about music a lot. And so I started pretty much being in bands. I don't know, right at like 17, 18 years old, I was starting playing garage bands. And, there were just nothing to write home about. It was just stuff that was just like, okay, we're going to make some 3-chord progression songs up and that's it. And then after a while, like in my mid 20s, I started to get a bit more serious. By that point, I think I was going to Georgia State. I was thinking about going into music production. However, it's a little daunting. The theory is what tripped me up a lot, the music theory. I wish I really stuck to my guns and really got into it. Because music theory is pretty interesting stuff. I mean, there's so much to learn from it, but I don't know. I was just not really focused enough. So, I was just thinking about bands and playing live, playing in, shows or whatever. So by mid 20s, I joined this band. We pretty much started from the ground up, a band called Leech Milk. And that was my first introduction into touring and really heavy music, underground stuff. Leech Milk was pretty much a force to kind of like be reckoned with. We did a lot in 3 years' time. We were only together about 3.5 years, but we did a lot of touring all the way out to West Coast and back a couple times. And we covered a lot of ground. We put out one album and a couple of splits, and I think TP Records picked us up at the end, and it was something that was like, notable. Unfortunately, it just kind of dissolved. I don't think we were ready to go to the next level. So then I guess that was like the end of my 20s. By my late 20s, early 30s, I was just like, I took a break from just being in bands. I started doing music production, just music promoter, just like promoting shows locally. So I just, try to help bands out, and whatever bands that came through, I would just set up some shows. I did that for a couple of years, and then I just kind of got burnt out. I was just like, man, this sucks. It's just a lot of work. There's no, obviously, how promoters are. They just like, it's a lot of work. Nobody appreciates you. And it's just, you're just pretty much doing it for nothing. And I paid a lot of bands out of my own pocket because it was just like, there's barely any money at the door. I was just like, well, this is kind of a waste of time, but it was enjoyable for the time. I was just like, all right, I need to get back into it. So I started, I actually bought a drum kit and started playing drums. I was just like, you know what? Everybody needs a drummer. So
Oh yeah,
I was like,
drummers are always in high demand.
yeah. So I started, learning, picking up the drums. I've always wanted to play the drums. That's the funny thing. I first started on guitar when I was in high school, but parents would never give me a drum set. So by this point, I had my own house and everything. So I was just like, I'm just gonna get a kit and figure it out. And I didn't have a teacher or anything. I just kind of learned on the fly. And I started a group from the ground up again, a band called the Love Drunks, which was a completely different thing altogether. The genre was like garage punk rock kind of stuff. And it was fun. Again, we went for a hard 3 years running, trying to do a lot, covered a lot of ground. We did some touring. Unfortunately, a lot of the guys in that band were pretty green to the whole thing. And I had a good time with them, but in the end, we got signed to a pretty decent label in the end. It was like Bomp Records or something like that, the same label that put out the Black Keys and stuff like that.
Oh wow.
And but unfortunately, it was like the deal was just like they wanted us to tour for like a month at a time, every other month. They wanted us to really go hard. And my daughter was just born like less than a year before that. So I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I was like, I want to take care of my kid. And, I was still married at the time. And the band was just like, no, we really need this deal. I was like, I understand. So they went and got another drummer, and they went on one tour and then broke up after that. It was pretty sad. I was just like, man, it sucks. But yeah, that was the end of that. And then I was just like, you know what, this is stupid. I got my guitar. I sold the drums, got my guitar rig back together. I started getting all my stuff back. I got a Laney 100-watt head, and it was an Emperor cab. I think I still got the Emperor cab. And I was just like, I'm going back into sludge doom stuff. So that's when I started Sons of Tanatia back in, it's 2008. Yeah, it was 2008 is when I started that group. And we went a hard 10 years with that group. That was my baby. I tried to really do a lot with it. Unfortunately, it was just revolving door of musicians. I went through like 6 drummers, and in the end, I kind of gave up because it was just got daunting. But we did a lot. We actually went to Japan. We went to Europe. We did a hell of a lot of touring in the U.S., probably 7 to 8 different tours, and covered a lot of ground. It was good, but it was just straight up like a doom sludge project. Kind of going back to the Leech Milk stuff. That first band was a kind of a doom sludge crust punk group, very like in vein of like a Buzz Oven, early Neurosis style of stuff. And Leech Milk was, it's kind of hard to top that. And I realized it's like, man, Sons was a great thing. We put out 2 albums, a couple of splits, and a 7-inch. And it was, an accomplishment. But in the end, I was just like, I need to look for something else. And it worked out in 2018 when the group was dissolving. That's when Mike from Withered, he reached out to me. It was like 2017. He reached out to me. He was just like, hey, I been thinking about you a lot. And, I've known Mike since the late 90s and when he was in other bands like Social Infestation, and Puaka Balava was another one he was in. And my old band Leech Milk actually played with his old bands at the time. It was the late 90s to 2001. I think Withered started in 2002, thereabouts. But anyway, he went through numerous guitar players, and eventually he was, he's always thinking about having me join because he really liked my vocal style, and he knew that I was always like passionate about music, and then I wanted to tour all the time.
Yeah.
By this point, my daughter's old enough that, it wasn't like I had to be around that much. They were in high school. Now they're up in New York, studying college. So it's just like, all right, well, I'm pretty much got my own thing. And, unfortunately, my marriage dissolved a long time ago, probably in my mid-30s. It didn't really work out, but I'm really thankful for my child. That was like the number one thing in my life that really kind of keeps me together, keeps me grounded.
I totally understand, man. I got two. I had a divorce, just like you. I went through a bad divorce. Of course, I was a much different person back then. I mean, you kind of mentioned how you was getting in trouble. I was getting in trouble in my mid-20s, late 20s.
Oh yeah,
and my kids. Long story short, my two sons, man, just really kept me grounded and just had me kind of stay the course of my sobriety, actually. So I get it.
It's pretty amazing what they can do just being themselves. It's just
right.
They somehow, like my kid really helps me keep my shit together because my family history is kind of I don't know. I'm not going to get into it, but it's pretty it's pretty fucked up. And she's my guiding light more or less. But when Withered was picking me up from all that mess with Sons, I was just like, you know what, I think I'm ready to move on. So that's when I kind of dissolved the group, and I just like, all right, let's go Withered pretty hard. And that was 2018, 2019 when I started touring with them. And unfortunately, COVID hit.
Yeah.
And everything kind of just went to a standstill. But that's when we actually started writing an album together. That was the first, that last album that we put out, Verloren, is the first album that I'm on with Withered, with vocals and guitar. And man, it was a pretty monumental feat. It was like through COVID, we did a lot of obviously just Zoom calls and like talking just online and on the phone about like what the goals are and whatever. And Mike and I would meet up and just talk about lyrics for days and weeks or whatever, just going through it. And then we went in the studio, I think it was the fall or winter of 2020. And then we started recording. It didn't come out until like spring of 2021, but that was highly productive in that sense. Of course, I got laid off in 2020, which is good and bad. I was just like, all right, whatever. I had been at this kind of corporate job for over 12 years, and I was just like, you know what, I'm done with it. I needed to break anyway. I needed to do something else.
What kind of corporate job you were doing at the time?
I was working for like a pump company. It was like they did a lot of like industrial pump systems for like hotels, hospitals, golf courses, shit like that.
Yeah.
And I was managing a whole group of people at the time, by the time I got laid off. But I was just getting, I don't know. I think it's the human condition for us to kind of get burnout on things that you just are not interested in. You're like,
oh yeah, absolutely. Man. If you're not passionate about it.
Yeah. I'm like doing it obviously for the money, the benefits and the 401k. And like, obviously trying to take care of my kid. Like I couldn't really give up that money, without trying to figure out what I'm going to do next. But it was kind of a good thing I got laid off because I was just like, all right, I'm going to reinvent my outlook on what I'm going to do. And I I went full into carpentry. I started
Mhm.
working for contractors, renovating houses. That was late 2020 when I started doing that, and and I'm still. I ended up working in shops like custom carpentry shops that would do all kinds of like scenic stuff for like TV shows because Hollywood is in Atlanta, so we got all
Yeah,
kinds.
that's true.
Yeah, so we did all kinds of stuff for that, and just it was it's been really good for me mentally because I just working with my hands is like there's nothing that really compares to that. So I was just like, this is what I want to do. So I've been doing that pretty much ever since. And I have my own shop in my basement here in my house, which lucky enough, I bought this house in 2019. Got a
In the
really
middle of
good
COVID.
deal.
Huh?
It's like the basement is fully furnished, so I could put a practice space in the next room over. Got like a PA and the drums and all the gear in there, and then there's another room in the back that's like unfinished, but it's got shelving, and I set up a whole workshop in there with my table saw, miter saw, scroll saw, everything that I needed to just do my own shit, And so I work on the house. I build kind of somewhat not like custom furniture, but I do tables and stuff like that, whatever. But yeah. So anyway, going back to Withered, it's been a great run. We've been doing a lot. We did go to Europe. I guess oh my God, that was January of 2020. So January 2020, we went out with Cannabis Corpse for a month in Europe, and man, that was a good and bad tour. It was a mess. I mean, there was some sold out shows. All the shows were great, like they're packed shows. We sold a lot. We did really well, but I was sick like more than half the time. I caught something, and honestly, it could have been COVID. I have no idea, but like
Yeah.
I was sick like as a dog, like the last almost 3 weeks of that tour. It was miserable. And on top of like, I've got like physical health issues with back problems because I
Yeah, I
broke,
saw that post on Facebook,
yeah,
man.
I broke my lower back in 2014. And I've been like dealing with that. I'm going to deal with that with my whole life, but it's just something I have to really be conscious of, and whatever. But the tour was good. I don't have any regrets of it. It's just, yeah, those boys in Cannabis Corpse, they're something. They were a little difficult to deal with, but whatever. They were the ones that we were kind of tagging along with, and we did that tour. It was great. So we've been talking about trying to go back to Europe, but Europe is kind of a mess. And it's just like, it's just one thing after another. It is, being in a band is such a daunting task because you have a lot to think about. I know it's always constantly like, how do you promote yourself? How do you get, how do you get all these tours established? We did this last tour back in November with Goathwhore.
Mm-hmm.
Was a substantial tour. Like it was probably one of the better ones I've been in, at least with Withered in the US personally. I know they've done like stuff with Morbid Angel before I joined, and a bunch of other really good bands before that. But this one with Goathwhore was great. It was just like night after night. It was just amazing. And Goathwhore is, man, they're like a machine. They just don't stop, and they're just watching them. I watched them play every single night for a month, and it was amazing. I was just like, damn, like they are so tight. They're just like incredible just to watch live. And of course, they're all really cool dudes. They're very chill and just
very cool.
Very respectful.
And I tell you, it's when it's time to work with Goathwhore, when it's time to work, they put in the work.
Yeah.
And when it's time to let loose, they're gonna let loose. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, they're pretty much like the blue collar workers of metal. You know, they fucking do it, and through thick and thin, because you know, even within their own band, they have their own turmoil, their own fights and stuff. And but at the end of the day, they're just like, all right, when's the next tour? You know, they're just
Yeah.
going for it. So
Yeah.
it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Just you know, small example of that work ethic, especially from Ben. You know, Ben leaves Maryland Death Festival on. We both flew out Sunday,
Yeah.
and he gets back home in New Orleans and straight into rehearsal with Goathwhore in preparation of this a Texas run they're about to do. I'm like, dude, you need to fucking rest. And he's like, I'm resting. I'm dead, kid.
Yeah, they don't fuck around, man. And you know, he got Soylent Green back together too. That's incredible. I was like, holy shit! Like that's
Yeah.
you know, I think about sometimes like, oh, should I get Sons back together? I was like, nah. It's like, fuck. Like I want to do something else, and that's kind of why I started the TVAD project, because I was just like, this year is pretty slow for Withered. We're not really doing much because Bo, our drummer, is moving to Ohio like within a week.
Oh wow.
And so we're gonna, you know, obviously we're gonna still do things, but it's gonna have to be on a you know, more kind of a bigger scale. Like if we're gonna do shows, obviously it's got to be a tour. Like we're not
Mhm.
gonna just do one-off type things, because it's just, you know, a pain for him to come down and just to do one show. So we're talking about this November coming up, doing something tour wise. But yeah, so this year's a little slow because we're just like, we're in the process of writing a new album. But it's slow going because there's just a lot going on. Rafe is getting married this year. Mike, his stepson, he had to move his stepson out to Colorado.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. So it's like, it's a lot going on, you know, and my daughter turned 20 years old this month. And that's just huge. I'm just like, oh my God. So I don't know. So we're trying to figure it all out. But at the same time, the TVAD thing has been something that I've been kind of messing with for years, really, for like since 2015 is when I kind of started thinking about doing something a little different. Because I'm always kind of like I'm pretty open minded, I guess, when it comes to music in general. Because like I grew up as a metalhead,
Yeah.
but then I kind of just started slowly getting into a lot of the punk rock stuff, old 70s punk, and then like garage punk, and then just devolving into just like, oh man, what about jazz? Oh man, what about flamenco music? Oh, what about Indian classical music? And it was just like all this stuff. I was just like, wow, there's just so much, you know, that I get like attracted to. And so I'm kind of like very open-minded to different things. So TVAD is it's not doom, it's not sludge and metal. It's more of like electronic, we'd call it dark wave, you know, it's like a
Yeah.
dark wave. My keyboard, guy, Lynn, he calls it, some of it is like death rock is what he calls it, which is like, I don't know, I mean, maybe, but it's like, it's a little hard, but it's different. We got keys, guitar, bass, and then we're doing a drum machine, for all intents and purposes, because like for that group, I went through 7 drummers, and I was just like, you know what? If we're gonna do this, like, it doesn't matter. Like we don't really need to have an acoustic drummer. Like I bought an MPC-1 drum machine last year, and I learned how to use it. It's pretty amazing, but it doesn't substitute for a real drummer, but it is for that style of music. It works because it's not really, you know, it isn't metal. It isn't like we're doing technical stuff. It's more about like, ambiance, kind of weird electronic.
Kind of like some dark ambient stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So it's different entirely, and so I decided to go that route, just because what I want in a drummer is kind of it's almost impossible to find. It's like I want a drummer to just play one beat. That's it.
Uh-huh.
One beat. Play it like you're a robot. Play it like an industrial beat, and that's it. And I couldn't find it. I could every drummer I would run into is just like, okay. And then they go and start doing fills and like little things, and I'm like, no, just play the beat. Just
play the beat.
One beat. That's it. Don't do anything else. And they just couldn't do it. Like I was just like, all right, never mind. I'm just gonna get this drum machine, and and it's fine. Like we recorded a couple months ago, and I think it sounds great. It's just a different thing altogether.
I was about to ask, like what's like the main inspiration for TVDA?
TVAD, yeah, it's really just like so I grew up like listening to metal, but also at the same time, I had an affinity for listening to Ministry.
Oh yeah,
like from the late 80s, early 90s Ministry. We're talking about like Mine Is a Terrible Thing to Waste or Taster, and then Stigmata and all that shit. It was just like, holy shit, that's like, I would have, if I could have, I would have joined Ministry a long time ago. But it's just like a whole different thing. And then of course 9 Inch Nails and like all that stuff. And then by my and it was probably the mid 2000s is when I kind of started listening to Swans. And I don't know if you listen to Swans at all, but holy shit, that's a whole nother animal. And they're not really like industrial, but it's not metal. It's
not
like
traditional metal. And
it's a whole different thing. And I got really like just drawn into that sound, that style. And so I know TVAD is not anything like any of that, but I'm trying to like come up with something that's a bit more, it's not about like some people will, oh, this is really dancey. Like, no, it's not really supposed to be dance. It's supposed to be like a bit moody, dark, kind of industrial, but it's like, it is an experiment in a project that I'm trying to like figure out. I'm like, the first thing that we recorded, it's just an EP, 5 songs, but we're testing the waters, trying to figure out, okay, well, what's the direction? But I feel like the newer songs that I've got like 10 more songs that we're already trying to hash out, and it's going to be pretty interesting. It's a different thing altogether. But talking about influences, yeah, a lot of it was that Ministry, 9 Inch Nails, Swans, of course, Sisters of Mercy, The Cure, of course.
So like even like tapping into your goth days,
right,
growing up.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I loved The Cure back
hell yeah.
Day, it was like, holy shit, this is so dark and I want to kill myself. And I'm it's just like, man, it's like so relatable, and
really is.
Lost my first girlfriend over The Cure. Is like, holy shit, it's just like, oh man, like so much, like, it's for everybody. Every single person goes through so many different things in their life, and like music, it's almost like you can pinpoint where in your life things change in regards to music. Like when I first got introduced to The Cure, like I was a teenager, and like that was my first girlfriend, and she got me into it, and then she dumped me, and I'm like, holy shit, like, but I never lost, like, I never stopped listening to The Cure. I was just like, oh yeah, this is amazing. I'm like, holy shit, but like, fuck that girl. I was like, the music is where it's at. It's like, it really like kind of keeps you going. For me personally, as a musician, I mean, everybody's different, but for me, it was just like that's kind of like the glue that kind of keeps my life somewhat in stable.
Yeah, I understand it completely, man. Like whenever, like you said it great. There's some life events that just really stick out in your life, and you could definitely like pinpoint either a song or a band that just kind of like it was a soundtrack in that moment of your life. I
Yeah,
know, I mean, like I can tell you exactly, like whenever I was at the verge of, I mean, I was thinking completely sideways. I wanted to kill myself at one point in my life. This is like 2007, 2008 time frame, around when I got sober, and I was clear headed, but still feeling a bunch of shit that did not know how to deal with. And ISIS, the band, not the terrorist group,
yeah,
kind of like reeled me in. And I was like, I was checking out their latest record, Wavering Radiant, and I was like,
yeah,
there is more to life than just these fucking negative sideways
yeah,
thoughts.
yeah. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Like you can deep dive into so many different genres of music, and with metal, it's just like it's crazy. Like metal has so many subgenres of stuff, and you're just like, damn, like it never ends. And I discover new shit all the time. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, like, where are you at right now with discovering new shit? If I could ask that question.
uh, let's see here, man. Well, this is kind of a completely different thing, but Lustmord. This is a German dude that does a lot of droney kind of stuff, and it's it's not metal, but it's
Mhm.
like it is like dark. Lustmord is just one guy, and he does some really like dark stuff. It's not really synth; it's like a combination of things. It's almost like um, kind of what Hans Zimmer kind of
Oh
does. I don't
yeah,
know, yeah, if you're familiar,
oh yeah. I
like
mean,
if you listen to the last Blade Runner
that
movie
shit's
that
fucking
came out,
fire.
dude, I listened to that soundtrack like 1,000 times over. I was just like, I put it on my Spotify list, and I was like, man, this is like, it's just, it's not really technically music. It's just soundscapes. A lot of
Yeah,
it is just like soundscapes that are just like so,
but it's so immersive,
yeah,
and you just lose yourself
yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
that world, and it's fucking brilliant. That Hans Zimmer, man, is fucking
Yeah, so I got into a Hans Zimmer kick for a few years. Like it was only a few years ago. I was just like, oh man, I started listening to all these different soundtracks that he did, like Dunkirk.
yeah.
He did the soundtrack for that, and it's mind blowing. Man, he's done obviously many, but also I can't pronounce his name very well, but it is Isinio. Oh my god, the guy that did the soundtrack for Hateful Eight, but
Oh,
also
yeah.
he did like the old school, like the Good, Bad, and Ugly, like way back those soundtracks from the fucking '70s with Clint Eastwood and all that stuff.
Uh, Sergio Leone.
Yeah, yeah, maybe.
Well, that was the director, of the,
Yes,
movies,
yeah,
but that's what came to mind.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's just like a interesting, like it's a very Western style, but it is also unique, and it's his own way of doing things. And he's Italian. The thing is, the guy is Italian. He composes all this stuff, and it's not, you'd think Western. Okay, the guy comes from Texas, but no, it's just like completely different world, and it's amazing. Like if you listen to the Hateful Eight soundtrack, I bought that one on vinyl just because I was just like, that movie was just Jesus Christ. Like I'm not a huge Tarantino fan, but he does a lot of good stuff, like really interesting things.
Oh, yeah.
He's kind of like he's an anomaly in his own way of just movies, but he also knows he knows music. Like Tarantino listens to music, so you can
Yeah.
tell like by the soundtracks, they're just nothing really touches it. And so I got really into soundtracks for a while, but that Lustmore stuff. But as far as like metal stuff, man, I've been going back and forth with like Full of Hell, of course, and Jarhead Fertilizer. Those guys, like we played with them we actually toured with them. Jarhead Fertilizer. That's the same guys that are in Full of Hell. We toured with them with Primitive Man, and I was oh my god, yeah, Blood Incantation. Blood Incantation was headlining that tour. We did like a month-long run. I think that was 2022 maybe. I think. But holy shit, the Blood Incantation threw me for a loop because I've listened to them for years, but then as soon as that tour was over, they released a new album, and it was all straight ambient. I don't know.
The Time Wave Zero.
Yeah, I don't know if you've heard it.
Oh yeah,
motherfucker! I'm like, these guys, like they totally did a left, like a curveball in metal music, and they pulled it off. Like
they really did.
Pretty amazing, you know.
Just looking at their recording studio, like at their I guess at their home base operations. I mean, Paul's got fucking synthesizers everywhere, keyboards everywhere. Yeah. It's like, dude. And so it's real easy to see just like how they fucking pull this off, you know, and they do, man. Like, it's just so progressive in metal.
Yeah. And that actually, they influenced me a little bit to do the TVAD thing as well, because that whole idea of like synth, I was just like, man, you could do so much with synthesizers. And I mean, there's thousands of different kinds, but I did some research, and I bought this synthesizer. It's called a Sledge, Studio Logic Sledge. And holy shit, it's got a lot of like analog type sounds and stuff, and it's just amazing. Like you could spend years concocting all kinds of sounds out of it, and it really got me thinking about doing more of that electronic stuff. But it's not like I'm in the process. You're probably the first person I'm telling this to, but
exclusive.
But I am in the process of doing some weird, like, more droney stuff. It's going to be very just like myself with a keyboard and some other stuff that I'm going to incorporate. But I just started recording like last week. It's just right now, it's kind of a trial, trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to do this? But I'm really kind of thinking about doing some, more droney stuff, just like as a side project. Nothing that I'm going to do live. It's just more like
just to scratch that creative itch you got.
Yeah. And it's always something that I've always thought about. It's just to get into drone. It's like, man, you just gotta take a bunch of mushrooms and just sit there and like, all right, this is what I'm going to do, because it's not, I don't know, man. Like I'm sure you could do it stone cold sober, but it's just so like, I don't know. It's ethereal. It's like, it's very like
very mind expanding.
You got to get in your own head, because it's only you. It's not a band. There's nobody else. It's just you and a keyboard or whatever else. Like I'm probably going to incorporate other things, but like I'm just trying to dive into that like head first and see what happens. I don't know. It may come out. It may not. We'll see.
Yeah. I want to go back to whenever you were coming up, and what metal bands like really stuck out for you to want to play that type of music?
Yeah, pre-Leech Milk, that was like my mid-20s. The stuff that I was getting into, actually, the guitar player of that band, this guy Chris, we sat down together, and he would make me mixtapes of all kinds of stuff. And this is like mid-late 90s when I was in high school. My metalhead days were this Slayer, Megadeth, Metallica shit. I didn't know any better. I was just like, oh, this is what people listen to. So like, yeah, that's what I knew. Of course, Cannibal Corpse crept in there a little bit, maybe some Death, maybe some, a lot of the death metal stuff, Morbid Angel, of course, but like eventually my taste obviously got a little expansive when I joined this group in the late 90s. Chris would make me these mixtapes of like I Hate God and Buzz Oven and some early Neurosis stuff. And the Buzz Oven shit, man, that hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, this is the shit. Like I was head over heels about Buzz Oven for a while. I was just like, man,
And
it was
rightfully
just
so.
like that sludge groove, that shit when Dixie Dave was in that fucking band and doing some stuff that was just like, I was just like, man, it's simple, but it's just, I don't know, it just like hits, you know, it really hits right. And then of course, man, goddamn, there's so many from His Hero's Gone. I don't know if you ever
Oh, yeah,
listened to
I
him.
heard, dude. That is like one of my good friends introduced me to Is Heroes Gone and Tragedy a few years back, and I was like, why the fuck I've never listened to this? Like,
Dude,
what the hell? They're so fucking heavy and good.
oh man, that first album from His Hero's Gone is just like it. I still listen to it to this day, and it's just nothing really touches it. It's just like
No,
something. I don't know. Like Chris and I would talk about that back in the day. It was just like, how do you think they recorded this album? And we would talk about it. It's like, well, it sounds like the engineer just took all the levels and he just pushed everything up all to the red. You know, everything's in the red. You
yeah,
know, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, that's what it sounds like. It's like there's not really, it's not, there's not a, I mean, there is clarity, but it's not, the recording is just so like, um, it's like dense in a way that's just like crushing. You just like, it's almost like somebody's pulverizing rocks, you know, throughout the recording. And that's what it sounds like. It's just like crushing guitars, and the drums are just like fierce. And it's just, and then the vocals are just like, goddamn, like,
yeah. Todd Burnett's fucking vocals are just unmatched, man.
I'm
For
like,
that,
hey man. And Leech Milk, we were just like, we need to fucking, we wanted to go to California and we wanted to go record same studio that His Hero's Gone was recording at. We wanted to do all that, but you know, of course it never happened, but it was just like that motherfucker. And then of course, um, the Neurosis, Through Silver and Blood album,
great album.
dude, I like when I first heard that album, it had just come out. I think that was the mid '90s or thereabouts, and I listened to it in full, and I did not like it. I was just like, "What is this?" Like it didn't really sink in my, you know, my head. I was just like, I don't understand what's happening with this whole thing, and it took me literally a whole year. Like I remember to this day, it was like a whole year that I was listening to it off and on, trying to like understand what was happening. And then a year went by, and I finally came back to it, and I started listening to it, and I was like, motherfucker, this is the best album I've ever heard in my fucking life. Like I didn't understand it, but it took me time to really like hone in like what they were doing, because it was like this mixture of the tribal sense, but also with the, you know, with all the different like nuances of the sampling, and like just the heaviness. Like it's so heavy. It's like
Yeah.
it's just, there's just a lot going on. And I got like so into the aesthetics of like how they accomplished that album. And I read about it, you know, when they recorded with oh my god, I forgot his name already. Who was the engineer? He did like some of the, he did Dope Sick for I Hate God, and
Oh, Billy Anderson.
yeah, yeah, Billy Anderson. Like I read the whole thing when they went in studio when Neurosis did that album, and they went through apparently it was a really difficult time for them, like emotionally and just like within their own families and everything. It was just like very difficult. But I was just like, yeah, it makes sense, because it's just like, it is a hard album to like really just sit down and be like, oh yeah, you know, great. It's not like that. It's just like, it's almost like you have to listen to it from front to first song to the end, and no no like skipping songs, no like it's just, it is a whole thing. It's like, it's a concept album in my mind. It's like,
Yeah.
it's something that it's just like, you have to just breathe in the entire thing. It's pretty amazing. So that really like hit me hard, because I read about like when Kirk from Buzz Oven was started Buzz Oven. He was talking about the fact that like he wanted to be a Neurosis band. Like he wanted Buzz Oven to be Neurosis. Like that's what he wanted to do.
Well, I
And
can't imagine that.
of course he didn't do it, but like, it's fine, because Buzz Oven is a whole different thing. But like, it's funny because like a lot of people got really sucked into that, and just like, man, like a lot of people don't understand like what's, a lot of people didn't understand what they were doing. And I saw Neurosis here in Atlanta at the Masquerade and that was probably 1999. And there was 5 people there. 5 fucking people, one of which was myself. I remember Brent from Mastodon was there.
I just knew you were gonna say that. I just
And a fucking April, this girl that later she started a band called Dead Register, which they're about to go on a long tour now. They're friends of ours, but she was there, and I had barely knew who she was at the time. But there was literally 5 people watching Neurosis do Through Silver and Blood on stage. And I was just like, what the fuck? Like, where the fuck is everyone?
yeah, like where the fucking people are at right now, man. Shit.
It was just, it's one of those things that I'll never forget. I'll be on my deathbed and be like, I saw Neurosis in 1999.
There's like 5 fucking people there.
Yeah, it was crazy. But yeah, I don't know.
The reason why I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, the last thing is just, of course, like Mike and I and Withered, we are pretty hard Neurosis fans. And so Withered is kind of like this thing where we always talk about like the Neurosis aesthetic is like how to incorporate that mentality, that style. Obviously, we're not going to, we're not trying to rip them off, but the idea of Neurosis is it's something else. It's like, and I know the whole thing with Scott Kelly is just like, it's disappointing.
Yeah.
It's super disappointing that shit happened. I mean, but the music still holds, the music is still there. It doesn't, you can't replace that.
It's another example of like, you just got to separate the personality.
Yeah.
Or some of the acts, of the artist from the actual music itself. I mean, because there's so many people that, I mean, I was just at Maryland Death Fest, and before that I was at Milwaukee Death Fest, and I saw so many people wearing Burzum shirts, and it's like, well, okay, like, are they fans of the music, or are they fans of Varg? I mean, okay, whatever,
Sure.
But it's like, it's just, people do heartbreaking shit, and just so happens that they can put out some really good product of music out there.
Yeah. I mean, that's the only thing he's got going for him, is at least he's got some material. I've never really got into a Burzum much, but I mean, I get it. I understand, but it's okay.
Yeah, I think I was speaking to Thomas Eriksson of the Norwegian band Mork, and we were like, he's a fan of him, but I told him, I was like, there's at least maybe 2 songs out of every album that are actually good. For out of his catalog. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, and the reason why I asked about your musical influence, because like, we talk about black metal right here with Burzum, but like, there's a blackened element to Withered.
Oh yeah.
Like
Yeah, for
without a
sure.
doubt. Like whenever I saw y'all, and I was just really curious to know, like, if there's any kind of like, black metal influences,
Yeah,
for you personally.
yeah, for sure. One that really sticks out hard for me, which is it's very difficult for me to even incorporate, but it's Portal. I don't know if you've listened to Portal from Australia. Holy shit. That band, they're not really black metal, but they're kind of this weird death metal, black metal kind of thing. I think people call them death metal at this point.
Mhm.
But it's it's so gnarly. I mean, it's just like this whole thing of just like the darkest thing that you can think of and just put it in this vein of like the depths of hell. But I don't know if you've seen any videos of them playing live, but they even live, you don't see their faces. It's just like it's something like it's almost like a cult,
Yeah.
you know. But black metal, I guess pure black metal in the sense, like I think of like Burning Witch, maybe, but that's not really. I don't know if that's considered black metal. But Burning Witch was really something that really stuck out for me. Some things that like obviously like we have some local bands here like there's a band called Hellgoat and Vemure. They're actually some of the same dudes in that band and they do some really outstanding stuff as far as in the realm of black metal. I honestly I don't really get into too much of the mayhem, um, the stuff that isn't technically authentic Norwegian black metal. I understand it, but I feel like I don't know. Some of it is kind of lackluster in my opinion, but it's just I don't know. I never really grew up as a black metalhead. I was a
Mhm.
metalhead. Even like when Mike talks about it, like one of his biggest influences is Weakling. Weakling was a band that just had one release, and holy shit, they did something that was magical, but it's very underground. One band that really incorporated a lot of Weakling stuff is like Wolves in the Throne Room,
Yeah.
which is also a great band. I saw them live twice, and they're fucking incredible. But it's different, it's American black metal, I
Oh yeah.
guess.
I actually I saw them in Oslo at Inferno Festival.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So my influences in black metal are not really like I come from a more, I don't know, underground, the crust punk sludge, just weirdness. And I appreciate the black metal stuff, but it's not something I go out of my way to really like to look for. I
Oh yeah.
do get influenced by a lot of stuff. I do like I'll listen to Wolves in Throne Room album any time of the day. Weakling is just incredible. You can only find that stuff on YouTube. Um, but then I don't know what else. There's there's a goddamn monumental amount. But like now I got to think about it. Trying to think of some European stuff that I really get into that's in that vein. I mean, like when I think of older stuff, Bathory. I don't
Oh
know.
yeah.
Bathory is it considered black metal? I don't even
I mean,
know.
I think they're like considered maybe part of that first wave of
Yeah,
black
yeah,
metal. Out of
yeah.
Sweden. Yeah.
Very different, obscure kind of shit. But yeah, I kind of gravitate towards something that's like just like to me at this point, like mayhem isn't really considered underground
Oh
for
no,
me.
no, they're
Like
definitely like
I'm just like, all right, they're just middle of the road black metal at this point. Like, all right, cool, I get it, but like, I'm not gonna go listen to them. Watain is an anomaly of itself. Like, I really, and it draws me in a bit. I don't personally want to see that live. just because I've already heard the stories, and I'm like, I'm not interested in that. Like, I don't want to smell death.
Yeah.
I'd rather just listen to it. But I get it. It's like, that's cool. It's a whole aesthetic that they're
Some
trying to.
nice dudes though. I got to
Oh
meet
yeah.
them. Got to meet. I know y'all toured with them at one point, right?
Well, yeah, Withered did. That was
They're-
before me, but
Okay.
yeah, they did. Mike told me plenty of stories, and that's like it's cool. It was like, all right, that makes sense. I get it. It's their thing. So
Yeah, I get it. Another Oslo Inferno story. Met those guys. They were just hanging out outside the hotel lobby, and um, like, you coming to the show? I was like, absolutely coming to the show. But I was way back in the fuck by the monitors and the sound guy.
sure. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's interesting because the live thing. It's with almost every band, especially with metal bands, you have two different versions of that band, right? You have the recorded version, and then you have the live version,
Mhm.
because it's 9 times out of 10, it's two different versions of that band.
Yeah,
Because you listen to the recordings and you're like, wow, this sounds great. It's intense. You see the band, and you know, more often than not, if they're really if they are talented and they're proficient with their instruments, you're blown away. You're just like, whoa, this is like not what I expected, and it's like so much better live. But obviously, that's what you want to. That's 9 times out of 10. That's what you're going for. Is like, you want the live experience to be the thing that people get drawn to. But it's interesting because there's it's almost like there's two personalities for every band. You hear one thing and then you see them, and it's just like, holy shit! Like, you just it kind of like solidifies your love of that band, or that genre. It's just like, holy shit, yeah, I get
yeah.
it.
And like I told you back in Asheville, man, it's like, I salad to say, like, I was late to the party to Withered, and and I was talking to Ben about y'all before y'all even hit the stage. He's like, oh, dude, he's like, dude, they're really good. You're gonna love them. You're gonna love them. And when I saw you, you was practicing. You was like, you in between selling merch, you just brought out your guitar and you were just like tremolo picking. I was like, okay, okay. I was like watching you, like, just chop it up, and I was like, oh shit. And then, like, whenever y'all hit the stage, I was like, wow. It was like a very visceral,
Nice.
very like fucking just uh emotional and intense performance that,
Yeah.
like, had really talented musicians,
Yeah.
and I was like, dude, like, I'm all over Wither now.
Well, I appreciate that, man.
Absolutely.
It's definitely it's a work of art, to do something that you can, like I said, translate from a recording to a live setting, because it's you know Withered has 5 albums now, and so we obviously we get to pick and choose what we're going to play live. But when we do that, we'll obviously hash it out in practice and be like, all right, does this make sense? The transitions from each song, we're trying to cover as many albums as possible, and we try to, like, basically uh, set it up in a way that's just like it is an experience altogether, because it's like the transitions have to make sense. And of course, we're starting to use a lot of different samples now between songs, so we can, like, make it seamless, and it is just like we're trying to make it an experience overall. It's just like, this is going to be something that hopefully some kid will be like, yeah, I'll never forget this show. It's just like, this is something that is special, because we put a lot of fucking time and work into it, and it's literally blood, sweat, and tears kind of thing. It's just like, man, like, we suffer so much. We argue, we have our own arguments within the band, and try to figure things out. But at the end of the day, it's just, it comes together. And luckily, I think this specific lineup of Withered is pretty unique, because I've my vocals have been something that I've pretty much been working on more than half of my life, like ever since Leech Milk, because Leech Milk was when I first started in that band, I was just a singer. I didn't play guitar,
Hmm.
and it the funny story about it is that Chris, the guitar player at the time, he had a vision. It was really his project. He had a vision for that band, and he told me, "Okay, I want you to scream, and I want you to scream like you're gonna kill somebody. Like it's gonna be like fucking murder on the street, right? Like."
Yeah.
And I remember he told me the story of like how he first posted an ad back when this is before the internet. He posted an ad looking for a singer. His ad said he's looking for a violent singer. And he got a call from the fucking the prison from the local somebody that wanted to try out. And he was just like, "Oh God." And I don't know why I tried out. I was just like, because I'm not a violent person, but I was just like, "Oh, this sounds interesting," and I tried out. And he really pushed me. He was just like, "All right," we would go through a rehearsal, and then he's just like, "All right, I want you to do that and and top yourself this next time. I want you to do it again harder." And then he would do it every rehearsal, be like, "I want to do it harder. I want to do it harder." Like vocals, just like it sounded like I was getting burnt at the stake.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
sounded like death. And I lost my voice like 4 times in like a month and a half when I first started that group or joined that group. And I was just like, "Holy shit, am I going to get my voice back?" Because like I was working at a pizza shop at the time, and I was just like, "Yeah, take your order." It's like I was like, I didn't know, I was like, I don't know if this is a good thing for me or not. But like after that 4th time, like I never lost my voice again, and it has been my kind of my one saving grace as far as when it comes to metal, like vocals. Like I'm able to do it to a point where I can push myself so hard that it doesn't bother me. Like I probably got calluses back here somewhere in the back of
Yeah.
my.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know, but like that was it really helped me, I guess, vocally. I don't think I'm the greatest guitar player, but like it's something, I love playing guitar. It's just, it took me a long time to really figure out how to do vocals and play guitar. And then when Withered came around, holy shit, the technicality with Withered, it's like I have to practice every day. I have to really like think about what I'm doing and the vocals at the same time because
Right.
it's a lot going on at
Oh
the same
yeah, man. It's no easy feat, that's for sure. Every vocalist I've talked to that plays guitar in a live setting, I mean, it's like you got to practice it every day.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
just have to.
That's where it's at. I mean, that's the blood, sweat, and tears. And it's. I mean, that's my life. I don't. Like I said before, is like I never became a lawyer. And if I became a lawyer, I probably wouldn't be here. Like I wouldn't be talking to you.
Yeah.
That would have been my life.
Unless
Because
I started like a legal podcast.
maybe the butterfly flaps its wings and we're in a different world. Yeah.
Right, right, right.
So
Man, and, before I let you go, I saw that you actually, uh, in addition to your carpentry and your guitar and your musicianship and everything like that, you do some wood carving,
oh yeah,
like
yeah.
like
That's
like some decorative stuff. I
yeah.
mean,
I
how
do
long
that
you been doing that?
since, like I said, since shoot, man, pre-COVID. Like I started like doing stuff on my own. But when I, like I said, when I bought this house in 2019, I was able to create a workshop in the basement, and I just started going full on, just like my girlfriend bought me the wood like a wood burning set,
Mhm.
and I just started learning how to burn wood and like incorporating art and design in that. And it's just been like something I've really got into. And we started working together and just doing like little markets here and there. Like we'd sell some things here and there. It's nothing grand, but like it's just something I enjoy doing. and I'll do it. I'll do something for my friends or family. Be like, hey, here's something I did for you, or whatever. But yeah, it's just something I enjoy on the side.
I was just checking out the post of um, from May 25th and how you got like this. It's like a goat and like I guess it's like a walking Baphomet. If
Hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, it's more or less like a what do you call those things? Centaur or centaur,
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
kind of. But yeah,
It's
I got we got a bunch of books here on, there's we have witchcraft books, we have tarot books, we have all kinds of stuff, and I'm always flipping through it. I'm like, oh man, this would be a cool design to like burn into wood. And so Keely, my girlfriend, she's really into tarot, and so we get fascinated with witchcraft, but it's nothing I don't practice witchcraft, but I definitely, it's something very interesting because there's so much history and dark magic and all that stuff, and the art is very,
Yeah, the
it's
art is
great.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
like are you? I'm sure you're like a fan of Gustave Doré. From like Dante's Inferno, and
yeah,
man, like that his art never gets old. Like
yeah,
I'm always
yeah,
amazed by just skipping through
totally.
pages and just going through all the art of all the imagery of
Yeah,
Dante's
I don't know if you're
verses.
familiar with Goya. He's a famous Spanish artist. I went to Spain back in March for a couple of weeks, and I went to a museum. And he's the painter. You may remember this painting. It's very famous from like the 1700s. Um, it's this old man with a, a child, and he's biting the head off the child.
Yeah.
That's
Excuse me.
Goya. So the museum I went to, they had a whole gallery of his stuff, and it's all just uh, pen and ink style uh, drawings, and they're just like maybe that big. But holy shit, it's all pretty dark. He does a lot of like interesting, like just designs that are just like, it was a lot of the at the time revolution stuff, and also witch burnings and all kinds of stuff, heretics and stuff that he was drawing about, things that he was influenced by, just the culture that he was involved in. But yeah, all that stuff, pretty dark.
And another thing, I got one last question, and you can take a while, take all the time you need to think about this. I always ask all my guests that come on the first time, like if there are 6 albums that you cannot live without, your house is on fire, what are you taking with you? And it could be anything,
Yeah,
metal,
it's gonna
non-metal.
be all over the place.
Yeah, yeah.
Probably. The first thing that comes to mind is probably the Bitches Brew album by Miles Davis. I
Love
have
that
it
album.
on vinyl, and that is motherfucker of an album.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bitches Brew for sure. Of course, I don't have Through Silver and Blood on vinyl, but I wish I did, man. That would have been amazing. Man, what's some other ones? Oh my god, there's a hold on a second. I think about this.
Yeah, take all the time you need.
Oh yeah, there's an album by this. It's one guy, but he's got a group, and he goes by Manitas de Plata, which is a he's a Spanish guy, um, and it's straight up like gypsy style flamenco, a guitar with vocals and whatnot. And I have one of those albums. Actually, was gifted to me years ago. Holy shit, it's a motherfucker as well. It's a monumental album, and it's super like nobody like I don't know anybody that knows who they are. Like it's very like if you live in Spain, some people may know who that is, but it's very like just like underground in its own sense. Um, Also, and I wish I had some Ali Akbar Khan. He's a guy from India, very famous Indian classical musician. He died probably mid 2000s, but he put out like fucking almost 100 albums in his lifetime. And I got to see him live once in Georgia at the Rialto Center in downtown years ago when I was married. Holy shit. And that was another one of those shows. It should have been a sold out show. And there was like half capacity at this place. And it was him and a group. They, you know, they had the tablas, they had a sarod, and all the Indian classical music musicians with their instruments. And motherfucker, it was, I'll never forget that. You know, that I wish I had some of his stuff on records, but I don't. A lot of my stuff is just all over the place. One group that I admired as well is Nate Hall's U.S. Christmas. I don't know if you're familiar with them. They're from Asheville.
That's new to me.
U.S. Christmas has been around since early 2000s, and Nate Hall is pretty much the main guy that created that band. But I have one of his albums. I think it might be just a self-titled album, but it's a motherfucker. It's like it's a double disc vinyl, and it is like I don't know how to describe it. It's heavy in a sense. It's not really sludge doom or anything. It's more like Appalachian, just man, I don't know. You have to just go listen to it. It's U.S. Christmas is like it's just a whole different thing. How many is that?
You're at 5. You got one more.
5, maybe one more. At least for like something metal, like something actual metal. I know I've got some stuff that is just like pretty untouchable. Oh my God. Now it's hard to choose because I got some that is just like I don't know if you remember the Manchurian Candidates, not the actual Manchurian Candidates.
The movie.
Yeah, I know. There's the movie. There's like history on it, but there's a band called the Manchurian Candidates. They put out 1-2 albums maybe back in like the late 90s. Super heavy shit. I probably not them, but like oh my God. Oh shit. This is a hard one. Let me think 1 second. What else is there? I'm trying to think of one album that I always pick out time and time again.
I like putting people on the spot, man. That's kind of my thing. What's your kink?
Right. Okay.
What's your kink? I'll put people on the spot.
Fuck. Man. Oh my God. There's man, this might be kind of stupid, but I don't know. I have an affinity for Electric Wizard.
Oh, dude, yes. Hell yes.
Dude, what is it called? It's the Pray album. It's Let Us Pray, I think is what it's called. I've got that one on vinyl, and holy shit, like I could listen to that one just front to back, just laying on the floor, just like, yeah. It's Electric Wizard. I got to see them once, and at the Psycho Fest when they did that in Vegas some years ago. I think it was pre-COVID, and Jesus Christ, like that was epic show. I mean, they're not doing a lot. It's a very simple music, but
yeah,
it is heavy as fuck. And when you see them live, it's just like, again, one of those things, night and day between recording and live. But man, like they were headlining, I think, the festival. I think Danzig had played the night before, and then they were playing the next night. And it was auditorium in at the rock and roll. What is it called? Oh my God. Hard Rock Hotel and Casino. That place is massive. It's huge.
It really is. I've been there. Like it was like 99, I think.
Yeah. and we got a room there for 3 days, and we went to the fest. But I wanted to see Electric Wizard, and they played that night, and the place was packed. And they come on, and all they did was like purple lights, and they had like 2 screens on either side, and the screens were showing like these old cult like 70s movies, maybe,
Like
but they were like
the old London like Hammer films.
maybe,
Like
yeah,
like
they're
like like.
just like they looked like they were just cults that were just like practicing witchcraft or something,
Yeah, yeah.
and that's all that was playing on the screens. And then you had Electric Wizard with purple lights, and they come on, and the drummer is like, he's a motherfucker. Like,
He goes for it every time.
I don't know who that was, but like there were bodies on bodies. Like people were crowd surfing for days, and it was just like, it's just like it came out so heavy. And I was just like, yeah, dude. And I remember, what's her name? Liz Cunningham, I think, is the guitar player, the other guitar player. It's dude on the main dude, and then
Liz Buckingham.
Liz Buckingham. She actually bought Sons of Tonatia album some years ago. I think it was her second album that came out. I remember I got the message on Bandcamp. Liz Buckingham wants to buy your album.
Hell yes.
I did
I made it.
I'm calling my mom, even though she has no idea what the fuck is. But yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. Yeah.
That's fucking awesome, man. So y'all in the middle of writing a new Withered album?
Yeah.
In addition to your TVAD?
Yeah. We're just trying to do multiple things at once. I'm not really working right now, so I'm kind of trying to figure out how to fill in all the gaps, making money on the side, and doing Withered and TVAD and carpentry and taking care of my kid and mortgage and everything. It's
Welcome to adulthood.
It's life. It's just fucking life, But yeah, we'll see what happens. I don't know. I don't know exactly when we'll be in the studio, but I guess we're kind of hoping for winter of 2025. We'll see. But yeah, we got a lot of work to do.
Cool, man. What I'm looking forward to seeing y'all and hearing what y'all put out in next year.
Hell yeah.
Dan, thanks for coming on board the podcast, man. I really appreciate it. It was so insightful, and I want to go ahead and add that you probably have had the most diverse 6 albums to save if the house was on fire in the history of this podcast. So thank you for that.
I would feel stupid if it was just like 6 metal albums, because it was like, man, yeah, I love metal, but like there's so much shit out there,
Yeah.
It's just like, dude.
It's fucking awesome, man.
But
awesome.
I appreciate you having me on the show, man. This has been fun.
I appreciate it, dude. Yeah, and we'll do it again once there's a new release, and we'll hook up.
All right, sounds
all right,
good.
man. Thanks so much. I'll see you
later.